What's going on, everyone? So in today's video, I wanted to give you a brief overview of some of the different video editing software that is available, as well as cover some of the equipment you might consider picking up if you don't already have it. And I believe this goes without saying, but whether you have a PC or a Mac, that will determine, for the most part, what video editor is best for you to use. There are some things that are only available on PC, others that are only available on Mac, but fortunately there are some softwares that, will cross over between both platforms. So I have a MacBook, and I'll get more in depth with that in a minute because that's what I know best. But I did want to touch on PC first in the event that you have a PC. I realize that not everybody's going to be in the market for a new MacBook, or you may have no interest in buying a Mac. You may love PC. And there are some options for that. So first of all, there is Sony Vegas, which I believe is quite expensive if I'm not mistaken. That being said, Sony Vegas is top-end super professional software, and it's going to be able to do basically whatever you could possibly want to do with a video. There is also Adobe Premiere, which does work on PC and Mac, but I personally am not a big fan of Adobe because of their subscription service. I did use Premiere in the past before they switched to a subscription service, and I had some issues with it. I believe it was mostly just my copy of it, or it was an issue with an update. But overall, my biggest issue or gripe with Adobe is they have switched to a subscription-based service, meaning you have to pay a monthly subscription. I believe it starts at $10 for one piece of their software, and then it goes up to $15 or $20 if you have two or more software subscriptions. So let's say you have Photoshop and Adobe Premiere, which is pretty common. You're looking at spending $20 a month, and me personally, I can't spend that much money. That's a lot of money to be spending. $240 a year to have access to a program so that you can edit your video, I think is just silly. And if at any point you decide that you are tired of Adobe and you don't want to continue using their software, you will lose access to that, and you won't be able to edit your videos. So you'll have to save them and all that before you stop paying, obviously. And at that point, you really don't have access to their software. You're going to have to switch to something else and start from scratch. If you are on a PC, back in the day, they used to have Windows Movie Maker, which was kind of terrible, but it might work for you. It's very, very basic. In my opinion, it's kind of a cut below iMovie. iMovie is kind of the same, but a little bit better in my opinion. But they actually discontinued Windows Movie Maker back in 2017, but it has been replaced on Windows 10 with Video Editor. So if you do have a PC, that should work for you as a very crude, basic video editor. My understanding is you could do very basic editing. You could trim clips down, you could probably splice clips together, do some very basic transitions, and maybe add like a title screen before you start the video. Some things like that. But other than that, you're kind of limited. That may be all that you need, and honestly, even if that's what you're using, that may be a step up from what you have right now. So I did want to mention that as being an option. In my opinion, I love Macs. I think Mac, I can't say that Mac is more capable. I do believe it is more user-friendly, and it's really geared towards creators and people, whether you're making video or photos or whatever you have. GarageBand is on there as well. Mac has a reputation for being built for creators, and that's one of the reasons that I love it. It's very intuitive and very user-friendly. So I have a 16-inch MacBook Pro 2019 model, which I just purchased. It's basically spec'd out with all the top tier things except for storage. It has 1 terabyte of storage, which is standard. Everything else is maxed out. You do not need a computer at this level to do video editing. In fact, behind me, I have my older MacBook. It's a 2015 model with 16 gigabytes of RAM, 500 gigs of storage space. If none of that makes sense to you, don't worry about it. But it's a pretty average MacBook that came out in 2015. That MacBook is perfectly fine for editing video. I just wanted something a little bit faster that would cut down my rendering time. So if you have a MacBook, great. If you don't, you might want to consider looking into one. You could always pick up one used or refurbished. But Mac has, in my opinion, one of the best video editing software programs that's available, and that is Final Cut. That, in my opinion, is the best bang for the buck. It is $300, and you might have some sticker shock if you're not familiar with how much video editing software costs. But in my opinion, that is $300 well spent if you are going to be editing videos. As I said in previous videos, I started my other YouTube channel, which is about my car, back in 2015, and that is when I purchased Final Cut. At the time, I was kind of just frustrated, and I was trying to use Premiere and it would not export a video. So I was frustrated. I was fed up with it. I said, okay, I'm just going to pitch in the $300 and go with Final Cut Pro. And I am so happy that I did. That channel is monetized and I run ads on those videos, but that has paid for itself several times over just in the videos that I've made. So it is well worth it to get Final Cut if you have a Mac, or if you're looking to get a Mac. I love it. It's pro software and it can do basically anything that you could possibly want to do. If you do have a MacBook and you are not ready to buy Final Cut, or you're not sure if that's what you want, it does come with iMovie. iMovie is a very basic movie editor. It's kind of on par with Windows Movie Maker, or now the newer video editor, but in my opinion, it's a little bit more user-friendly. I think it is a step above those editors. I did use it in the past, and I know a lot of YouTubers back in the day before Final Cut was affordable, they used iMovie, and it worked just fine. So if you're just looking for basic video editing, where you're looking to trim your clips down, maybe it starts too early or it ends late or whatever, or you want to splice it and mix it with something else, you can do that with iMovie. iMovie is actually a pretty good software. That being said, you cannot layer in iMovie, which is what really sets Final Cut apart. Layering is where you are able to layer multiple clips or text on top of the video. And as you could see in my videos, or any other videos that I make on this channel or my other channel, that is what I'm doing. So even the intro to this video, where you saw the title and it was on top of the video, that is capable. That's an option in Final Cut. It's really not an option in iMovie. So I do recommend Final Cut. If you have any other questions about video editing software, just drop it in the comments down below and I'll try to address it. Next, I want to move on to some hardware, because there are some things that you may want to consider. Like I said, you could start editing out of the box with a MacBook with iMovie. I do recommend getting Final Cut, but beyond that, you may want to consider getting extra storage space. Depending on how big your Mac is and how much storage it has, you're more than likely going to run out of storage space at some point sooner or later. Especially Final Cut, whenever you are creating videos and editing, it's saving that optimized media and that proxy media in a separate location, and it's basically duplicating files, and it needs to do that. That's part of the video editing process, but you will run out of storage space very quickly if you're not careful with that. So I actually have these are solid state drives. They are hard drives, but they're basically like a giant memory card, and this is a traditional hard drive, an HDD. And obviously it's external, which is why it's in the case like this. But this operates by a disk spinning inside, and your computer will write that data to that disk. These are very limited in their read and write speed, which back in the day wasn't really a problem, but today, especially with larger files and videos and higher quality, it can be an issue. Especially if you're trying to store stuff on there, it takes a long time to save it. And if you're trying to play back video from there or reference data off of this hard drive, you're really going to struggle. These are significantly faster. I couldn't even tell you how much faster. I'd say probably like 20 times faster or so. And these can be purchased very cheaply on Amazon. The two that I have here are 500 gigabytes, but I also have this one, which is 2 terabytes. And I use this for all my video. This right here actually is my entire video library for Final Cut. I really don't store a whole lot on my desktop or on my computer. Everything is in this little hard drive right here. So I do recommend getting one if you don't have one. That being said, you don't need one right off the bat, but just keep that in mind. If you are going for an external hard drive, I would recommend getting an SSD, a solid state drive. That's going to be significantly faster than the traditional hard drives. You will also need a SATA cable. This is an adapter so that I can plug this into this and plug it into my computer. And this is actually a USB-C, and you could also get the USB 3.0 if you have an older computer. That being said, that takes care of your storage. Next, I would say get a pair of decent headphones. These are from Sony. These are noise canceling. I picked them up for about $40. You don't need noise canceling. Any headphones will do. Whenever I'm editing video, it really helps to have headphones that will help you listen to your audio quality, your sound mix if you have music in there. If there is outside noise, background noise, it helps cut through that. And also just realize that there's at least a portion of your viewers who are most likely going to be watching your videos with headphones on. And some things that you may not hear through your computer, through the small speakers, can actually be pretty jarring if you have headphones on. There's kind of a running joke that you'll see where people say rest in peace headphone users, because there will be a loud noise or something startling that you don't realize whoever put the video together didn't catch it. And if you have headphones on, it's very noticeable. So I do recommend having a pair of headphones. As far as software goes, is all you need to edit is, like I said, iMovie or Final Cut, some basic video editor. But I also recommend downloading OmniDiskSweeper, and I will make a video in depth explaining that. But basically, OmniDiskSweeper is a free software that will allow you to go and delete different files. And it's very convenient for deleting render files and proxy media that you do not need after you complete your project. So as I mentioned earlier, your Final Cut will create these temporary files. After you're done with that project, it's very easy to go in and see what files are massive and say, I don't need that anymore, and get rid of it and delete it. So I do recommend that. I've been using that for about 5 years now, and I love it. Without that, I would not be able to edit because my computer, actually this is one of the first issues I had when I started my channel, was just these massive files that would basically just fill up my entire computer and it wouldn't run anymore. So whenever I notice that one of my hard drives is getting full, I look at what projects I've closed out that I don't need those files anymore, and I could go in and delete them. The last piece of software that I would recommend is having some form of video converter on your computer, because it is very helpful. I personally have any MP4 video converter, and I also have the paid version because the basic version is not capable of converting HD video or 4K video. So for me, it was worth it just to pay the extra money and be able to convert those types of files, because that's what I'm dealing with. But you definitely want to have some type of video converter in the event that you have a file that is in a format that your computer does not recognize. A good example of this is my church. We deal with a Blackmagic hyperdeck that we record to, and if it's formatted correctly, it's set to ProRes, which means it will save in a .mov format, which is recognizable by a Mac, and I could drag those files right into my video editor and start working on them. However, we have had issues in the past where the cards were not formatted correctly. So everything saved as it should. However, it was in a .mxf format, and that is not something that could just be dragged into my Final Cut program. I actually had to convert it first. So in the event that you have a file that you come across that you can't recognize or your computer can't handle, it's important to have a video editor, or I'm sorry, a video converter, so that you could transfer that to a file that you can use. So that's all I'm getting into in this video. If you have any questions, drop it in the comments down below. I will be getting into the more specifics on different, things in Final Cut and how to add transitions and all that stuff. But I wanted to start off by giving you a basic overview of some of the different softwares that are out there. If you don't have a MacBook or you don't have Final Cut, there are plenty of other videos on YouTube on how to use that software and how to deal with it. If there is a demand, I can show you how to do some basic stuff in iMovie, because I have that as well. So if you're interested in that, let me know. But otherwise, I'm going to primarily focus on Final Cut, because that is professional software and that is typically what I use. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and I'll catch you guys next time.